Welcome to Opening Voices. I'm Quentin, the CEO of Clever Cloud, and today I am inviting André Loesekrug-Pietri. André is the leader of JEDI, Joint European Disruptive Initiative. The goal is to create a European DARPA. That's a good idea. Hi everyone, this is the pilot episode of the new podcast we try to do about tech in Europe and does our technology, our research is able to work. And for this first episode, we have someone very special because it's very on the subject, which is André Loesekrug-Pietri.
Hello, Quentin.
And you are the leader of a group called JEDI, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So you are JEDI.
Yes, so to shortly introduce the Joint European Disruptive Initiative, Quentin, also called as JEDI. So we are a foundation and we fund advanced research program in science and technology. And the purpose is to ensure that France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Europe as a whole remains a leader in the current technological acceleration we're witnessing. We have three main areas of activity. One is energy and environment, two, life sciences and synthetic biology, and three, computing, which encompasses AI, cyber, quantum, but also semiconductors.
So the JEDI itself is a foundation, so it's a non-governmental, non-profitable organization. How does JEDI have been created? And after we will discuss about how does it work.
So the whole idea is already a couple of years old, is we witnessed this acceleration of time, of technology. The fact that technology is increasingly not just an economic topic, but increasingly a transversal topic, which is fundamental for our national security, for our democratic future. That's how political opinions are formed increasingly. And so it's absolutely essential for the future of our societies. That's why it's a societal, it's almost a political project to ensure that we remain top of the game. Because we think that when we are top of the game, we can decide the future we want. We want to make sure that Europe is not just under pressure of others who are shaping the global agenda, but that we ensure that we shape as a society, as citizens, as countries, as European Union, that we shape the future in this technological century. And for that, and that's the main thing to remember about JEDI, we use a methodology to fund and support advanced science and advanced technology, which is radically different than the traditional way we fund research in Europe.
When you say it's radically different, it's a methodology you have get inspiration from another way, or
No, absolutely. I mean, when we created JEDI, we got inspiration from an agency in the US, which is called DARPA, the Advanced Research Project Agency, which was set up in '58 when basically the US experienced what they call the Sputnik shock. The Sputnik shock, when the Soviets at that time launched the first satellite, suddenly actually the US continent became vulnerable to potential attacks from outside. So the president at that time, Eisenhower, decided to set up a very small entity with a very simple objective: no technological surprise. So the objective of the advanced...
So the point was not discovering stuff, but not being surprised.
Not being surprised. That means always being the one who is setting the agenda. Always looking forward what could be the next scientific and technological breakthroughs to ensure that the US at that time and democracies in general remain forerunners. And out of DARPA came out most of the major disruptive innovation we know today. The two famous ones is the internet, which was before called ARPANET because of ARPA. The GPS, the fact to geolocalize...
The internet, but majority of the research on the internet was from a French group called Cyclade Network.
And we could have many of these examples. I mean, what ARPA and what JEDI is now doing is we don't try to invent radically new things. We want to accelerate current research and technology being done within science universities, labs, within the deep tech startup ecosystem, but also within industry, and have a very focused purpose objective saying, okay, can we find new materials for the energy transition? Can we do AI with 1 million times less energy consumed? And what we try is to actually to accelerate. And I talked about this methodology. The methodology is to consider speed as important as the money we invest, which is rather good news, especially in times where we are constrained by budgets. Secondly, to not wait for people to apply, but to ensure that we go to the best teams. Our indicator of performance is to ensure that the best work on the same topic.
So in the case, for example, of Cyclad and Internet, it's basically not the researcher of Datagram from Cyclad. They have been rich, and the project have been empowered by the DARPA, and then it become ARPANET.
We have many examples.
They're rich, and
they give an objective, they give funding for that. They have a scientist, that is third thing on the methodology, go out to the best, speed, and also have these programs not run by bureaucrats, but run by scientists themselves, who won't care about the way to do it, but they will care much more than others, than traditional research programs, on what is the technological roadmap, are you making progress, have you thought about radically different ways? And the fourth part of the methodology is, instead of betting everything on one team, you mentioned one, there are often on a program 4, 5, 10 different approaches which are supported at the same time. Because what we want to make sure is not to pick the winner, but to ensure that we reach the objective with very different approaches. You mentioned about internet, but we can give other examples of ARPA projects that were run by Europeans. Everybody knows the man-machine interface on some of our smartphones. Siri was actually something developed by a team in the US, but with French scientists, that won a DARPA project, and that became Siri, and now implemented by Apple. That was the first time. It was 2004 that actually people were thinking about how can we command a machine with the voice. We have another example, which is autonomous cars. Waymo, that a lot of people talk about, these autonomous cars driving to the city of the roads of San Francisco, the streets of San Francisco, was actually a DARPA program in 2005, Autonomous Driving Challenge, in the desert of Nevada, that was won by a German guy, Sebastian Thrun. So many times...
It's a challenge. It's not a program, it's a challenge.
Well, we can play with words. It's basically, why is it often called a challenge? Because there is a clear objective. In the case of the autonomous driving, it was, can you drive autonomously 100 miles and achieve the goal? In the case of Siri, it was a program saying, can we use voice and to actually have interaction with your devices? And what is really incredible with DARPA is that they didn't succeed in everything. Actually, they failed in most of the attempts, because it's often hard, but they were always very good at anticipating what would become important. The GPS for geolocalization, internet for the global communication network, autonomous driving, we talked about that. We can talk about stealth, furtivity. We can talk about the MEMS, the memory chips. We can talk about many. We can even talk that the first program that was launched to create very quickly vaccines on an unknown virus was a 2013, 2014 DARPA program that kind of had a prescient of what would happen to us during the COVID crisis. And guess who was one of those who won this DARPA program at that time? It was Moderna, also run by a French guy based in Boston.
So basically what they do is putting some challenge and try to be sure that there would be some failure. Because if they don't fail enough, that means that they don't push enough to something which is not sure. That's it?
Indeed. I mean, there is a little bit this myth. I've never been able to have a formal confirmation of that, is that basically at DARPA, if more than 20% of their program reach the initial target, they consider that actually they have not pushed the frontier far enough. So it's a slightly different approach that what you hear typically in venture capital. You know, in venture capital, you hear sometimes you are okay to lose 8 or 9 out of your 10 portfolio companies, because the 9th or 10th will make it so big that it will reimburse the rest. It's different. Here, it's an attitude of saying, when it's something that can be invested by equity, by a venture capitalist, then this is not a DARPA, or it's not a JEDI program. A JEDI program is something where today the business case is not clear, so you cannot make a business out of it. So the private sector won't touch it for good reasons, because the business case is not clear. But where we think that, number one, we are not far from a breakthrough, provided we put concentrated efforts. These concentrated efforts is what we call our programs. And secondly, where we believe that breaking this bottleneck would have a huge societal or strategic impact. So 2 things in what I say. One, we focus. So we try to go against a bit the tendency we see a lot in Europe of spreading too thin, financing thousands of programs. We think some programs are more important than others.
Financing everyone.
Basically financing everyone and pleasing everyone.
So you focus.
We focus.
Few programs,
yeah.
Only few. And?
So we focus and we try to ask the right question. And this is not trivial. When you look at, it's a little bit like a math problem. You never, when you're in math or when you're in philosophy, you never spend enough time to ask yourself, okay, but what is the real problem we're trying to solve? Take the example of AI, where obviously we have incredible European scientists all over the big tech. The question we should ask ourselves, why are they with Meta, with Google, with OpenAI, and not all working in Europe? Because in these environments, they are basically challenged on the hardest problem facing humanity. And I think that is what we want to do, is we want to focus the best brains on the real important problems of our time. Again, in the energy sector, you can talk about fusion energy, you can talk about life sciences.
We will talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
So first, that was the first episode for the week, which was how DARPA is different of other research organisms. That was the first program, and next week we will talk. We will talk about how the DARPA program will be converted into the JEDI. Thanks for listening, Opening Voices. We will continue in a few days the interview with André Loesekrug-Pietri from JEDI. So subscribe to the YouTube channel or the podcast to continue with us.